Hi Tarot friends, it's Jade here with Tarot Truth. Welcome back to my channel, or if this is the first time you're visiting me, then welcome, welcome, welcome. I really appreciate new and oldies alike for choosing to spend some time with me, because there's a lot of things that we could all be doing with our time. So today's video is a wrap-up of January, of the month of January for me, and I've decided, I was thinking about my videos and my channel, and I've decided that I would really like to have a little bit of structure around my videos for at least the wrap-up videos. Not sure about the others, but for the wrap-up videos, my structure is going to be with specific sections. So the first section we're going to talk about today is the reading corner. So what tarot or oracle decks that I use and for what. Sorry, my nails are really horrible right now. And secondly, if there's any stalker cards that I might have noticed. Yeah, so that will be the first section. The second section will be called the crafting corner. So any deck mods that I might have done, any pouches or reading cloths, anything that's sort of crafty that I might have done. And also, I'll talk a little bit about my journaling in this particular video. The next section will be my reading corner, but the book reading corner or other resource reading corners, not necessarily divination systems. And then I'll talk about acquisitions, and then I'll provide a very brief depth year update. And then finally, I'll close out the video with what I would like to work on going forward. So, sorry, we're 2 minutes in and we're just starting. Okay, so let's get moving. So January wrap up. So for the reading corner, what decks did I use and for what? I wish you could see my whole setup here. It's like I have just sort of decks. There's a big mess everywhere. The first, I used about 7 or 8, 9, 10 decks this month, over the course of the month, and I have been doing several challenges on Instagram, and the reason I'm doing several of them is because I really want to work in depth and consistently with specific decks. And so I find that if there's a long challenge, it's a month-long challenge, then I can just pick one deck for one challenge and work on that throughout the month. So for example, this one here that we're looking at, the backs of, is the Sopraffino by Il Menegallo. It's got the squared corners. And this deck here I used for the hashtag 2020 Tarot Challenge by Topaz River Tarot on Instagram. So that's the first one I did. I believe that one had a prompt every day, although I'm not 100% sure. So that will be the first one. The second challenge I did also on Instagram. And by the way, if you are curious, you can check out my Instagram feed. I'm Jade Indigo 19. There's also a link in the description box below if you're curious. But so the second challenge on Instagram I did is the hashtag Tarot for Growth January by Bujo Witchcraft. And for that challenge, I used my Golden Tarot, or Visconti Sforza. And I really, really wanted to use some of the ancient Italian decks this month, and so I did. I kept this one. The nice thing about these challenges is that you can pick as many cards as you want. It doesn't have to be 1, it doesn't have to be 3. And so because these cards are very large, I would typically only have one, maximum sort of 3 cards. Oops, that's upside down. Per prompt. So again, that's the Visconti Sforza for the hashtag Tarot for Growth January by Bujo Witchcraft. So that's deck number 2. Deck number 3. If I can grab it without making a big mess here. Deck number 3 was also for an Instagram challenge, and that is the hashtag Magical 2020 Tarot by purefield.healing, also on Instagram. And for that challenge, I used my Fountain Tarot. It's interesting that this card was right there because the Emperor seems to be stalking me a little bit lately. But anyway, I believe that challenge, did not have a prompt every single day, so that was kind of nice as well. This deck will come back in a later segment. So that's the third one. The fourth challenge I did was also an Instagram challenge, and it is the hashtag the January Tarot Challenge by Lionhearts, also on Instagram. I'm gonna switch this over here a little bit. Sorry, I don't have great lighting today, so I apologize for that. And for that challenge, I used my Game of Thrones tarot, which I absolutely adore. I really wanted to use this deck this month because I do see this as a very wintry deck for me, at least for me. And so I had a great time getting to know this deck again and working with it in more detail. All right, so that is number 4. Okay, so then the other thing I decided to do in the month of January for the first time was try the weekly nested readings by, as discussed by Natalia over at Ouroboros' channel. So I was trying this for the first time. I hadn't really done consistently a weekly nested reading, and so January was sort of the first time I did. And for that, I also was consistent in what deck I used. And I am continuing to use my Universal Goddess Tarot because I don't know what it is about this deck, but I just love it so much. And I've been working with it every day now for, 3 months? And I've just not gotten tired of it. The messages I'm getting from this thing, it just every day seems to be something very different, but very worthwhile. So I did that, and I paired that with the Divine Feminine Oracle. And I'll talk a little bit more about how I went about doing these readings and what new thing I'm trying with these nested readings. And also this deck will come back a little bit in a later segment as well. All right, so that was the weekly readings. For my daily draw, so in addition to the weekly readings, sorry, I know I'm a little bit ridiculous here, but in addition to those weekly nested readings, I also did daily draws. And the daily draw spread that I've been really enjoying is sort of an overall outlook for the day. And I'm actually doing that the night before for the following day. It sort of dovetails nicely into the weekly nested reading. But for that, I'm using my awesome Everyday Witch Tarot. Again, I had put this one away for a while. I had edged this in yellow. And when I pulled it back out, I can't remember why I put it away. I think, it's probably just, hey, squirrel, shiny new thing. But I've been finding this has been amazing for my weekly readings. I'm going to show my journals a little bit later, and I'll show you what that daily outlook looks like for me. Okay, so that is that. Okay, beyond that, I'm always looking at, as most of us are, I'm looking at Instagram and Facebook or whatnot, and I come across different readings that I see that I want to try. And so I have all these miscellaneous readings, and I usually would pick a different deck, so just whatever I felt like at the time. But for the month of January, I used this deck, so the Deviant Moon, which has been very cheeky to me. And I used my Ancient Italian, which is very similar to the Sopraffino, except this one is by Lo Scarabeo and Sopraffino is by Il Manigallo. And in terms of an oracle deck, for the most part, I used either the Divine Feminine with the weekly readings, and then the Angels and Ancestors deck. There's the backs. And I really enjoyed getting to know this deck a little bit more. So that is it. That's all the decks that I've been using. I realize it's a lot, and it sounds like it's a ton of readings. I suppose it was quite a lot of reading. But the one thing about the monthly challenges is that although there is a prompt for every single day, I don't do all the prompts every single day. So I mean, I don't have 4 hours. Let's be frank. Like, I have a life, I have a family, and I have other things to do as well. So I don't do every single prompt every single day. I think the first week of January I didn't do anything, and then I started on the second week of January, and I would just group reading. So if I can show you, actually, so I used this for those challenges. I had these little, just plain little notebooks, and what I did, because I didn't want to put this in my normal journal, because I kind of wanted to keep each challenge together, like all the prompts and all the readings for each challenge together, rather than have them in my normal tarot journal, which would then just all be scattered. So this was the first one, the January Tarot Challenge, which I used the Game of Thrones tarot for. And then you'll see that, hey, there's 3 days right there. There's another 3 days. And in some cases, I might have done 5 or 6 at a time. So it's not as bad as it sounds, or it's not as plentiful as it sounds in terms of number of readings. Okay. In terms of, I went through, it was kind of interesting. I did the 31 days of tarot, or quite a few of the prompts, not all of them. And one of the prompts was around, what card sort of showed up the most often, or did you have a stalker card kind of thing. And it was an interesting thing going through and figuring that out, because it wasn't something that I'd really thought about before. And so I went through, and last month, so in the month of December, the Six of Pentacles came up so many times for me. And when I really reflected on why that is, I realized that it was because I was not spending enough time, for various reasons, with some people that I really needed to spend time with. I needed to be more generous with my time. And this month, that card hardly came up. I think it came up maybe twice in all of the readings that I did. I don't know why some of these are upside down, sorry. And instead, the cards that came up most often, so I had 3 cards that came up the same number of times, and one was the 3 of Cups, one was the Queen of Cups, and one was the 10 of Pentacles. Kind of nice, kind of nice cards, I guess. I'm really happy about them. They're about, collaboration and sort of being on top of the emotional side of things, being able to collaborate, enjoy, spend time with others and make space with them, but not make space for them, but not necessarily take on all of that energy yourself. And I've definitely been learning a lot about that, and that all revolved around, much of that revolved around work as well. So I have been reaping some dividends in that respect. Anyway, so that is it for section A, the reading corner. The next corner I have, or the next section, is the crafting corner. So talk about deck modifications that I did. I didn't do that many, but the one that I'm the most pleased with, let's start with that one, revolves around my Universal Goddess Tarot. And so I don't know if you remember, I did do a walkthrough of this deck, and I if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you'll have seen this deck. You'll have seen me post about this deck before, but I really hated the backs. The backs had this like blue and yellow, sort of like it was in quarters with the fleur-de-lis symbol. And I really didn't like them. I mean, it's not that I absolutely hated them, but I really didn't like them. And so what I did was reback them with this beautiful, sparkly paper. So this is sticker paper that I got from our local Dollarama. I went looking for something. I wanted something that was thin, so it didn't add too much bulk, and this worked absolutely perfectly. So I really loved it. Now, the one thing I will say, and it does come in a whole bunch of different colors. I chose this one, but I do have several other colors as well in case I decide to do other decks. The one thing I found was after I did this, and it worked out great, worked out perfectly, but after I did that, what I found was that because the paper is not, like, it sparkles, right? So it's not super smooth, right? It's fairly smooth, but there's still a little tiny roughness to it. And what happened was that some of the cards, you're actually not going to be able to see that here, but when I was shuffling, some of the cards got a little bit scratched on the fronts. So what I did was, oh, and I also edged it, by the way. So I did the edging first before I put the sparkly paper on. I edged it in a matching purple. And then once I realized that the fronts were getting a little bit scratched up, not really that badly, but I really didn't want the artwork to suffer, so I put clear contact paper on the fronts. You will see that there is, there's some bleed from the edging, and actually that's fine. It kind of works well for me, because the borders are not stark white, so it just kind of looks I don't know, a little smudged, I guess, and that was fine. So after I did the backs, I did the fronts, and then I re-edged it again just to make sure that everything was even. And this deck is thick. Now, each individual card is not that thick, and actually some indie decks like the Muse and even the Modern Witch Mass Market Edition are actually thicker than this. This is still fairly flexible, but it did make the deck a lot thicker than it was. So just in comparison, it was about the size of my everyday witch before. So let's see here. There you can, no, that's not very good lighting. Okay. Anyway. There we go. So it's about, half an inch, 5/8 of an inch, about 15 millimeters difference, or thicker than it used to be. Should have pulled out the box, that's what I should have done. Anyway, so that is the universe. That was my first deck mod, and the one that I'm the most happy with. In terms of shuffling this deck, I mean, it still fits in my hand fine, and it still shuffles great. Let's see if I can move over here and try to do this. Of course, it's not gonna work because I'm on camera, but no. I'm in a really awkward position right now. Anyways, it's really not bad. So, all right, so that's the first one. The second one is, we have to try to make this quick. The second one is my Fountain Tarot. So my Fountain Tarot, and I posted about this on Instagram when I did it, but the Fountain Tarot had this very, very, very shiny side. And the problem with it was that on the fronts of the cards, the gilding actually, there was a lip, like it protruded upwards. And I'll see if I can post a photo, but you can definitely see it on my Instagram. And it hurt my hands. It hurt to shuffle, it hurt to hold the cards, just because of that lip. So what I did was I took a nail file and just very gently went around the card, took that off, and I think it is absolutely gorgeous. Still shiny, not as shiny as it was before, but I actually prefer this. I think it's gorgeous. So that was the deck mod. That's the second deck mod that I made. I had the same issue with the Influence of the Angels Tarot. And so I did the same thing. Now this one, I'll show the originals first. So this is what the originals look like. Super shiny. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry about the light. Super, super shiny. But still had the same sort of issue. So I did the same thing. This one didn't work out as good. It still has some shine to it, not nearly as much, but I'm not going to be able to get it here. I don't know if you can see, but it's not, I think it's completely, like it looks worn. It looks worn, so it looks like the in some areas you can actually see the whites of the card there. I think you could see that. So that doesn't, it's not great. Didn't come out as good as the Fountain. I still really like it, and I will continue to do the rest because it'll be more usable for me that way. And actually, there you can see the difference there. But yeah, it'll be more usable this way for me. So you can see on the corners there actually where I maybe took off too much. So that is deck mod number 3. One more, which I actually was really excited about. I have this deck in this little keepsake box. And you may recognize, let me just pull that out, the Thoth Tarot. So this is the original Crowley Thoth deck in the green box. It's very, very large. Very large. And just far too large for me, and I found the borders were very white, very thick, and I just didn't like them, and I didn't like all the keywords necessarily. So I trimmed it down to the artwork, and you can see there at the bottom, maybe I just wrote in a marker what the card was, because I don't know the system very well. This is one of the systems that I want to learn this year. The number of the card, and where there was a keyword, I actually did add it right now, but I can take those off, because if you just use a little bit of rubbing alcohol, the marker comes off. So for now, I'll leave it on. But I just find this deck has gone from sort of blah to absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning. The artwork, of course, is by Lady Frida Harris, and all I could say is, wow, she was an amazing artist. I love it, love it, love it. So I haven't learned the system yet, but I plan to. So the other thing I did, other than trimming down to the artwork using the large corner rounders, I also edged it in multiple colors, and how I chose the color was based on the predominant color on the card. So it's multicolored. This lighting is awful. Anyway, okay. That's the last deck mod I made. All right, next. So also we're still in the crafting corner, but the next section I want to talk about is pouches that I made. So I couldn't remember whether I had shown this one before. I think I might have. I probably didn't have the closure on it yet. So I've added that. I did the same thing with this. Just with some leftover yarn. That's for an oracle deck. And if I can find it, here's another one. I'm really liking this. So I had all these zipper pulls that I'd ordered ages and ages ago, and I find that they work great. You can move them around if you need to. They're just slipped through, and then just put a coordinating button, and I just find that it looks great. This actually houses my paradoxical edition of the Triunfo de la Luna, which is a deck I want to start. Okay, my fingers are not working very clearly. Okay, and then I made one, which I've not put the closure on for yet, but this one is for my Visconti Sforza deck. And this one I crocheted out of cotton, not my favorite material to work with, but it was leftovers, and I'm happy to use up the stash, so that was great. Okay, one more thing for crafting corner, which is not, it's sort of a combination of the crafting and tarot, which is my journaling. And so one of the things I wanted to do, I've seen like videos by Boho Tarot, which, by the way, if you haven't seen hers, I don't know where any of her videos, I don't know where you have been for the past couple of years. She's amazing. She's so crafty. I wish I was, even a tenth as crafty as she is. She does amazing deck modifications, and I learned a lot of the things. I learned a lot of my how to do my deck modifications from watching her videos. So she has these beautiful journals where she has photos of the cards in them, and they're scrapbooky, and then mine look like this. Right? So I wanted to do something a little bit similar, so I experimented. And in this box, which is the Influence of the Angels box, what I did was I photographed, look how small these are. That's the Visconti Sforza. So if I can pull out a card here, there's the original card. This is the size. Some of them are even smaller. There's the ancient Italian. That one is the Game of Thrones. So they're really tiny. So I photographed. Oh, I also did the Fountain Tarot, because that was the deck that I was using. The Everyday Witch, so here you can see different sizes because I was experimenting with the photos and doing different sizes of photos. So what I did was I just lay them all out, all at once actually, and take one photograph and then print it on 8.5 by 11, and then just cut them out. And these are the sizes that they came out in. I think the Visconti Sforza I did in sort of 2 batches, so they'd be a little bit bigger. But anyway, so it was fun to experiment. It was a pain in the butt to cut them all out. An absolute pain in the butt. So you can see I have a few different decks in there. My daughter just laughed and said, hey, you should offer to do somebody a reading and then do it with these cards. Just as a joke for people. Anyway, so those are fun. So what I did was I started to try to make my journals a little bit nicer. So here, actually, I'll show. I was talking earlier about the overall outlook. So this is a spread that I've been using, which is, card number 1 is the energy or the outlook for the day. Card number 2 is what crosses your path. Card number 3 is unfinished business from the previous day. And card number 4 is new goals or new business. And so then I just actually would start putting in those photos. This is so you can see I was experimenting with the different sizes. But it was kind of nice. And then here I actually ended up using an oracle card as well. And yeah, so I was just experimenting with different things. This is a pain in the ass. I don't think I'm going to do this again. At least not so much at a time. I was able to do that because I had a bad migraine and I was in bed, and so it was just easy to just sit there with a pair of scissors and cut. I didn't have to think about anything. That was kind of nice. But in future, I think I would just do them as I needed them, I guess. And the other thing I did was I ended up buying a Sprocket printer, which is a very tiny printer. Let's see if I have it here actually. And this is the size of the prints that you get. And I'm going to experiment with this because I think this is too large. I'm going to see if I can manipulate the photos or something and do them, sort of landscape mode, so I can get 2. And this is sticker paper again, so you can just peel them and stick them on. So that's what I'm trying. And I also, for the weekly nested readings, I started this very large book, 8.5 by 11, I guess. And I kind of did the same thing where I'm using it's where I'm doing the nested reading. So using an oracle card for the theme or energy, what to embrace, what to release, and then additional cards. So this one was actually a different one where I've actually added specific days in there, but I'm not going to be doing that again. It was just too much. So that's it for crafting, I think. Yeah. Okay, so what am I reading? I have been reading the Game of Saturn book, because if you watched my December video, you'll have heard me talk about this. Let's see if I can make this a bit bigger. Sorry, like I said, the setup is just not, I won't be using the setup again. But the Solabusca deck is one that I'm super interested in, and this is sort of the, I don't know if that's what's the right word, but preeminent or just acknowledged expertise on the deck, maybe. I don't know. And so I'm still reading this. This is going to continue into February, and I really haven't had that much time for reading that either. Work has been fairly busy. So okay, the next section I'm going to talk about, I'll make the rest really quick, is acquisitions in the month of January. So in the month of January, I did receive a couple of decks, and one I showed in my previous video because I did that. I received the deck on like January 2nd or 3rd or something, and then I did a walkthrough, and it is the Mat Tarot. I don't actually have that in front of me, unfortunately, right now. The second deck that I got is an Oracle deck that I had pre-ordered. I had ordered, sorry, not pre-ordered, in maybe November, and that finally came in January, and that was Soul Cards 2. The only problem with that deck is that some of the cards were actually damaged. The lamination sort of folded over itself on about 4 or 5 cards, and so I'm waiting for the replacement for that. What else? Oh, one more deck that I got is the Fantastical Creatures deck, and that deck I'll do a walkthrough very shortly. It is by Lisa Hunt. Here's the box. Actually, I'm not going to go through the cards right now. It is a US Games deck, published in 2007. There's a star card from it. Fantastical Creatures Tarot. So I'll do a walkthrough of it. I won't show it right now. But that is another deck that I sort of couldn't resist. So what's up next? What's up next is I'm going to be doing a few challenges. I really enjoyed doing the challenges on Instagram. I really enjoyed how much, how deeply, and often let me work with specific decks, and I got to know them in much more detail than if I was just doing, random readings every once in a while. So it's been great. I'm going to do that again. So there's a few of those that I'm going to do. I'm going to continue doing the weekly nested readings, and I'm going to continue to do the daily outlook readings that I was showing you. So the decks that I've chosen, I'll just list them, but the decks that I've chosen to work with in February will be for miscellaneous spreads, just my Etrurium Incade, my Valentina Visconti deck, which is my only black and white deck, possibly my Solabusca, depends on how far I get through the book. On the weekly nested readings, I'm going to use my Mythic Tarot, the new Mythic. For my daily outlook, I'm going to use my Dark Mansion Tarot. For the challenges, I've got 3 challenges I'm going to do. One is called the 22-Day Challenge by Rose B Mystics on Instagram. For that, I'm going to use the Crow Tarot. There is a challenge called the Journey to Self-Love Challenge by A Place to Dock and Evolution of a Soul on Instagram. And I'm going to use the Tarot Muha for that one. And then Crystal Visions I'm going to use for the In-Bulk Divination Challenge by Lionhearts on Instagram. So there you have it. I'm sorry this video was very long. And my battery is about to die. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions about any of the decks, please feel free. I'd love to hear what you've been doing this month. If you've done a video, January wrap-up video, please tag me, let me know, or post about it down below so I can find you. And please let me know what have you been What have you been working on? What are you hoping to work on next month? How's the month of January gone for you? I'd love to continue the conversation. If I hope you enjoyed this. If you're still here, please, and you like this video, please do hit like and subscribe, and hit that little notification bell so that you hear when my next videos come up. So we'll talk soon. Bye bye.